Picture this. You are sitting at a dinner party. It's a group of your oldest friends.
Right, people you've known for years, maybe even decades.
Exactly. And, the wine is flowing, people are laughing, the usual stories are being told.
Yeah, the classic complaints about the boss, the
Yeah.
gossip about the neighbors.
Right. The exact same arguments you've all rehearsed like 100 times.
Yeah.
But suddenly you look around the table and you just feel this profound, incredibly heavy silence open up inside yourself.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's as if everyone else in the room is speaking a completely different language, and you have somehow, I don't know, just lost the translation manual. You feel entirely detached from the very people you're supposed to be closest to.
It is a very specific, almost haunting kind of isolation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're sitting shoulder to shoulder with people who technically know the timeline of your life better than anyone else on Earth, yet you have never felt more unseen or just disconnected.
So you sit there, swirling your drink, wondering, is there something deeply wrong with me? Like, have I completely lost my mind?
All right, the guilt sets in.
Yeah. Well, welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. Because if you have ever sat in a room full of friends and felt that exact brand of intense, sometimes painful loneliness that comes from working on yourself and inevitably outgrowing your environment, this conversation is specifically for you.
Absolutely.
Today, we are tearing apart the psychology behind that exact feeling. We're going to prove that feeling like an isolated outsider isn't a sign you are failing at life. It's actual biological proof that you are evolving.
It really is. We're looking at a deeply emotional journey today. We'll break down the illusion of societal expectations, the harsh biological mechanics of how personal growth actually happens in the nervous system, and why letting go of your oldest, safest ties might be the only functional way to find a group of people who actually understand you.
Yeah, but to understand why this dinner party alienation happens in the first place, we have to look at the exact moment you begin to wake up to the noise around you.
Right, that initial shift.
Okay, let's unpack this moment of waking up. Usually there's this initial stage of growth where you realize that most of what we value, the relentless daily grind, the debt, the performative social media posts, is basically an illusion.
A matrix of borrowed scripts, essentially.
Yes. I think we all vaguely know we're influenced by our parents and society, but how deep does this script actually go?
What's fascinating here is that it goes down to the very foundation of your desires. I mean, from the moment we are born, we're essentially handed a character to play.
Right.
Parents, teachers, marketers, culture, they implicitly and explicitly tell us what success looks like, what we should fear, and what we should buy to feel adequate.
We're placed in this incredibly well-decorated golden cage.
Exactly. We're sold this idea of a flawless life, but when you look closely, it's modeled by performative milestones. People work jobs that completely drain their vitality to buy things they don't fundamentally need, just to project a sense of stability to friends who are quietly doing the exact same thing.
Wow.
Most of what people consider their own organic thoughts or desires are actually just deeply ingrained, borrowed patterns they've never questioned.
So you're saying we don't even know what we actually want, we just want what we've been told to want.
Pretty much.
But then, for the listener who is doing the inner work, reading the books, meditating, going to therapy, or just finally disconnecting from the digital noise, something
A
shifts.
script breaks.
Yeah. You suddenly see this game for what it is. You realize you are standing awake in a world of people who are essentially sleepwalking through their days. And the problem is, when you try to gently point this out over that dinner we mentioned earlier, people look at you like you've gone completely mad.
Oh, absolutely. They treat you like you're just trying to spoil the fun.
Why do they get so mad, though?
That reaction happens because you are actively threatening the agreed-upon illusion. There is immense structural comfort in the story society tells itself. When you see through it, you naturally stop chasing the external validation that everyone else is running after. You step off the treadmill. But carrying that new perspective is a heavy burden at first because it immediately makes you a foreign object in your own life.
Wait, I have to push back here. Isn't it incredibly arrogant to walk around thinking you possess the truth while everyone else is asleep?
It can definitely seem that way.
I mean, look at it from the friend's perspective. You go to a dinner party, look down your nose at them and think, I am enlightened, and you are all a bunch of blind sleepwalkers. Isn't that just a massive, insufferable ego trip?
It absolutely can look that way from the outside, but if we examine the psychological mechanism of true growth, it is quite the opposite. True awakening actually destroys the ego rather than inflating it.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, early in the process of self-discovery, there is a common trap where people do feel a sense of superiority. They weaponize their new awareness as a defense mechanism because they feel so alienated. They think, I am special, you are ordinary.
Right, I've definitely seen that.
But as the growth deepens, that need to be special completely evaporates.
But surely distancing yourself from your childhood friends implies you think you're better than them on some level, doesn't it?
Think about what the ego actually is. The ego thrives on performance.
Hmm.
It wants applause. It wants a hierarchy. It wants to be at the top of a ranking system.
Okay, yeah.
Spiritual or psychological awakening isn't about building a new, superior persona with a better vocabulary. It's about dropping the performance altogether.
Oh, see.
You stop pretending to be happy when you're hurting. You stop needing to be the smartest person in the room. What emerges from that isn't arrogance. It's a quiet, profound sense of worth that comes from simply existing without the mask.
That makes a lot of sense.
And paradoxically, when you drop your own mask, you develop a deep shared humanity. You don't judge the sleepwalkers anymore because you acutely remember that you were one too. You view them with compassion, not contempt.
So seeing the truth intellectually is the first step. You drop the ego, you see the matrix of societal expectations, but actually living that truth day to day forces you into a highly uncomfortable, intensely vulnerable state.
Very uncomfortable.
And to explain the mechanics of why growth feels so physically awful, we have to talk about lobsters.
Yes, the lobsters. It is one of the most accurate biological models for what happens to the human psyche during massive personal change. To understand the loneliness of growth, you have to look at the life cycle of a lobster.
Let's lay this out. A lobster is a soft, mushy, highly vulnerable animal that lives its entire life inside a rigid, hard shell.
Right, it's armor.
That shell is its ultimate protector, but that shell is completely static. It does not expand. As the soft lobster inside grows, the shell becomes incredibly confining. The lobster begins to feel immense pressure, restriction, and physical discomfort.
It hurts to stay in there.
Yeah, so in order to continue growing and survive, it has to go hide under a rock, physically break out of its old shell, and wait to produce a new, larger one.
And the crucial detail is what happens during that waiting period. During the shedding phase, the lobster is entirely exposed to the ocean. It's soft, it has no armor, and it is at the mercy of every single predator around it.
It's totally defenseless.
Exactly. It's a terrifying, highly dangerous phase of existence. The discomfort of the tight shell was bad, but the sheer vulnerability of having no shell at all is biologically terrifying.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If the lobster is too afraid of the predators and clings to the old shell for safety, it stays small. It gets completely stuck.
Yep.
And eventually, it literally dies inside its own armor. You cannot cram a continually growing organism into a rigid old container without killing it.
It's impossible.
Apply to our lives. Faking it, trying to cram your new, awake, evolving self into the old shell of your former life, is soul-crushing. You end up living a double life. You edit every word you say so you don't upset your friends, but your truth leaks out anyway.
Always.
You have a calmer gaze or a different laugh, or you just don't get angry at the things they get angry at anymore.
Psychologically speaking, maintaining that double life places a massive cognitive load on your brain. You are betraying your core identity daily just to maintain the illusion of belonging to a group. It is exhausting.
It's like trying to wear a tailored suit that you've outgrown by 50 pounds. At first, it's just tight across the shoulders. You feel a little restricted.
Uncomfortable, sure.
But eventually, if you keep trying to live your daily life in it, the seams are going to rip violently in public, whether you want them to or not. So if it is that uncomfortable to stay in the old life, why do we fight the shedding process so hard? Why do we resist taking the tight clothes off?
Because you are fighting millions of years of evolutionary neurobiology. The human brain is not wired for self-improvement, happiness, or enlightenment.
Really? Just survival?
Just survival. It is wired for one thing, basic survival. And to your ancient reptilian brain, the concept of familiar is identical to the concept of safe. Even if your old habits, your old toxic friends, or your old stressful job are making you miserable, they are completely predictable.
Wow, so misery is safe if it's familiar.
Exactly. Your nervous system knows exactly how to survive them because it has done it 1,000 times.
So when you try to change, your brain treats it like a physical attack.
It hits the emergency brakes. Radical change demands massive metabolic energy from the conscious parts of your brain. Your nervous system interprets this sudden shedding of your old identity, the loss of your social standing, the changing of your routines, as a literal threat to your survival.
That's intense.
Without the social armor, your amygdala starts firing, triggering intense anxiety, physical discomfort, and a deep, overwhelming urge to just go back to bed and procrastinate. Your brain would rather fiercely protect a miserable known identity than risk the terrifying vulnerability of the unknown. To your biology, leaving the tribe means getting eaten by a lion.
That is mind-blowing. So you are not just fighting societal pressure when you try to grow, you are actively fighting your own biology. Your body is screaming, put the tight clothes back on, get back in the small shell, or the predators will eat us.
That is the core of the loneliness.
Yeah.
You have to outsmart your own neurochemistry. You have to consciously prove to your nervous system day by day that this new exposed state is actually safe.
Let's follow that progression. You manage to override your biology. You shed the shell. You endure the agonizing vulnerability of standing naked in your truth.
Right.
But what happens to the other lobsters in your life? What happens to your friends, your family, your coworkers when they see you walking around without your old shell?
That dynamic introduces one of the most painful aspects of this entire process. It is a psychological phenomenon we can call the paradox of loved ones.
I want to ask the listener directly. Have you ever tried to share a huge, life-altering personal breakthrough with someone you deeply love? Maybe you realized you need to change careers, or you uncovered a childhood trauma, you're finally healing.
It's a very vulnerable moment.
Yeah, and you bring it to them, and they either immediately change the subject to something trivial, or worse, they get inexplicably angry and defensive.
This raises an important question because it is a devastating reaction, but incredibly common. The paradox is that family and friends will swear up and down that they want what is best for you.
Right. They say they support you.
And consciously, they probably believe they mean it. But subconsciously, they usually just want what worked for them. More specifically, they want whatever keeps the dynamic of your relationship completely predictable.
So your sudden growth is a systemic threat to their reality.
Think about the cognitive dissonance it creates. When you step outside the agreed-upon societal framework, when you quit a prestigious job to become a baker, or you establish a boundary and stop engaging in toxic family drama, or you simply refuse to be stressed out by the things that are stressing everyone else out, it deeply threatens the people around you who are still playing by those rules.
Right, because if you can break all the rules, drop the script, walk away from the game, and actually be totally okay.
And what does that mean for them?
Exactly. It means their rigid framework isn't as solid as they thought it was. It means all the sacrifices they made to stay inside that golden cage might have been entirely unnecessary. And that is a terrifying, world-shattering thought for them to process. They get angry at you because you are living proof that their cage has an open door.
Which brings us to the inevitable friction. How do you handle this?
Yes.
This subconscious threat response is exactly why long-term friendships drift into awkward silence.
Yeah.
It's why family members pull back and stop inviting you to things, and why some people might even turn openly hostile towards your personal growth. They sense you are no longer playing the game with the same enthusiasm, and it makes them feel intensely insecure about their own choices.
So what is the actionable move here? When your oldest friends start acting cold or defensive, do you just cut everyone off aggressively? Like, do you send a mass text saying, I have outgrown you all, goodbye?
No. And navigating this requires immense grace. Letting go of these bonds is not a failure, but it cannot be done with arrogance or anger. Setting a boundary is about protecting your energy, not punishing them.
That's a great distinction.
Your old friends are doing the absolute best they can with the level of awareness they currently have. You have to learn to let them go without bitterness. You can silently thank them for the role they played in your past, but you must adamantly refuse to let their current limits become your permanent limits.
But let's be totally honest about what happens next. Releasing those old relationships, stepping away from the dinner party, declining the invitations.
The quiet part.
Yeah, it inevitably plunges you into what feels like a vast, completely dark void. You are alone.
The psychological term often used for this is the dark night of the soul. It is the hermit phase.
It seems like people who undergo massive internal shifts just quietly disappear from the world for a while. You withdraw. And again, it's not because you think you're too good for everyone. You disappear because you are physically and mentally exhausted from the cognitive load of performing.
When you drop a shell, you quite literally lose the neural pathways required to fake small talk. You can no longer pretend to care about the endless manufactured drama or the exhausting status games or the repetitive complaints of people who refuse to look at their own internal patterns.
I want to lean into why that is. If you go back to the old environment, every single conversation requires you to manually load up a version of yourself that is already dead just so they feel comfortable. It drains your battery to zero.
Totally drained.
So you protect your peace, you delete the apps, you stop going out, you spend weekends alone. But that leads to a very profound, aching loneliness. You sit there in your quiet living room and wonder, did I make a massive mistake? Was all this therapy and growth even worth it? I actually miss the easy days when I just fit in and went with the flow.
There is a classic psychological archetype that applies here. Every hero leaves the village alone. Authentic growth demands that you live honestly, even if it temporarily costs you your sense of belonging.
So what does this all mean? Are you supposed to just become an isolated hermit in a cave and ditch everyone you've ever known? I mean, is the ultimate reward for self-improvement just permanent, depressing isolation?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is a resounding no. The hermit phase is not a permanent destination. It is an active mechanism for healing. Let's step away from the lobster for a second. Think of your brain during this phase like a smartphone undergoing a hard factory reset.
Okay, a factory reset. The screen goes completely black.
Yes, all the old corrupted apps are being wiped out, the bloated software is being uninstalled. During a factory reset, the phone is completely useless. It cannot connect to the network. It cannot send messages. It just sits there in the dark.
Right.
But that blackout period is entirely necessary to reboot the operating system so it functions smoothly. Staying in unconscious, chaotic environments while you are trying to change actively damages your developing consciousness.
Yeah.
Because human mirror neurons will subconsciously force you to match the chaotic energy of the room. You withdraw because you desperately need a completely silent room to hear your own new baseline frequency.
So you have to go offline. And the incredible thing is that eventually being alone stops feeling lonely.
Because you finally meet yourself. You realize that solitude isn't an empty room. It's a room that is finally clear of toxic debris. You stop seeking external validation, and you realize the safety your nervous system was screaming for is actually generated internally.
And the really beautiful part of this process is that this dark, isolating void you have gravely created by shedding the old shell. That void is the exact mechanical requirement that allows the right things to finally enter your life.
It is basic physics. Two things cannot occupy the same space. If your calendar and your mental energy are entirely consumed by fake friends and forced obligations, you have zero capacity to recognize or nurture genuine connection.
So you emerge from the blackout, your new operating system is running, and this is where you finally find your true tribe. The reward for surviving that agonizing vulnerability is the arrival of people who actually align with your truth. But how does it mechanically happen? Do they just magically sense you from across town?
It's not magic, it's behavioral filtering. The prerequisite for finding these people is radical, uncompromising authenticity. You cannot attract an authentic tribe while wearing a mask because the mask acts as a false signal.
It's like broadcasting on the wrong radio frequency. If you're pretending to love golf and complaining about taxes just to fit in, you're broadcasting a signal that will perfectly attract other people who love golf and complaining about taxes.
Exactly.
But your true self, who maybe wants to talk about philosophy or art or healing, is completely hidden. The right people could walk right past you and never know you're one of them.
Precisely. Dropping the mask changes your micro-expressions. It changes your posture, it changes the tone of your voice, and crucially, it changes the physical environments you naturally gravitate toward.
Oh, that makes sense.
You start naturally repelling people who rely on superficiality, and you become highly magnetic to people who operate with depth. You probably won't attract massive crowds, you aren't going to have a million friends, but you will get a true, solid tribe.
You start having conversations that finally just click. You meet a complete stranger in a coffee shop or a class, and you implicitly understand their wavelength. You share moments that don't require you to constantly translate yourself.
It's a relief.
And sometimes, this is a beautiful nuance, your quiet shift, your calm refusal to play the old game, actually serves as a silent permission slip for a few of your old friends to drop their own masks. Sometimes they grow with you, but you can never force it. You just have to stand exposed in your truth. What falls away are the illusions. What stays is deeper and truer.
The painful shedding of the shell is a biological and spiritual necessity. The loneliness you felt at that dinner party was never a punishment. It was the required transition state between who you were programmed to be and who you actually are.
This entire journey from seeing the borrowed scripts of the Matrix, enduring the terrifying exposure of losing your shell, navigating the paradoxical anger of your loved ones, surviving the blackout of the hermit phase, and finally broadcasting the right frequency to find your true tribe, it all brings us to our core takeaway for you today.
It is incredibly easy to get lost in the heavy emotional weight of this process, especially when you are in the middle of the dark void. If you are listening to this right now and feeling that intense, aching isolation, we want to make one thing absolutely clear. You are not crazy.
You are not broken, you haven't lost your mind, and you haven't done something wrong. The intense loneliness you are feeling right now is the absolute, tangible proof that you are growing. You are successfully shedding a shell that was slowly suffocating you, and your ancient brain is just temporarily terrified of the fresh air.
You are transitioning from mimicking borrowed scripts to trusting your own authentic intuition. Emptying the room of your mind feels hauntingly quiet at first, but what remains when the dust settles is clarity, peace, and the capacity for genuine, unforced connection.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a lingering thought, something to take with you into the quiet moments of your day. We talked about the lobster and how completely terrifying it is to exist without a protective shell. I want you to think about a specific relationship, a job, or a daily habit you are desperately white-knuckling clinging to right now. Really picture it in your mind. Now ask yourself.
Are you holding on to it because it genuinely still fits the person you're becoming?
Or are you simply holding on to it because you are terrified of feeling the cold ocean water on your new, vulnerable skin?
It is a profound question, and it is one that only you can answer in the silence.
Stay curious, embrace the uncomfortable mechanics of growth, and above all, be ruthlessly honest with yourself about which shell you are wearing. We will catch you on the next deep dive. Take care.